Awesome. We're live. I can't see how many folks are joining, but welcome. Hopefully we can make this an engaging session in the comments. But yeah, welcome. You're in the right place if you're looking for the Humantic Accord masterclass today. Today we're going to be talking about B2B sales, but in a bit of a different lens. We're going to be talking about how to build a more buyer-centric sales process. I think everyone in this room, speak for myself, but I think everyone in this room probably believes that the key to, the biggest lever you have to sales is making it easier for buyers to buy and helping them do the work, right? Now, these days, there's, at least 10 plus stakeholders typically involved in a B2B sale. You need to really be helping your buyers buy, help them understand what the process looks like. You've sold your thing hundreds of times, probably the first time looking at your product or solution and maybe even that entire market. We're going to talk about ways to accelerate deals, win rates, all those good things through a more engaging process for the buyer. As folks join, maybe we can start off with a quick icebreaker and mini intros here. So maybe just share in the comments where you're dialing in from in the world and your first your first job that you got a paycheck from. Doesn't have to be professional. First job you got a paycheck from. Always funny to see that from folks. So I can kick things off. So I'm Ross Rich, CEO and co-founder of Accord. Before founding Accord, I was one of the first go-to-market hires at Stripe, helping scale their sales team from about 3 of us to 350, and calling in from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And my first job was selling running wear at a sports store when I was in grade 9 or 10. And basically what that meant was selling sports bras and leggings to middle-aged women, which was very awkward for 14, 15-year-old me. That was my first job in sales, I guess. I'll kick it over to Jesse to do a quick intro as well, and where you're calling in from and your first job or paycheck.
Yeah, sure. Jesse Willett, founder of Lead Magic. First job paycheck was actually I was actually I would help people. I was working for a company that did fixing computers and networking, those types of break fix kind of technician. Really was the first one in the local area while I was in high school.
Awesome. And a bit about your background, Jesse?
Sure. Yeah, I was a sales leader for about 15 years and decided to pivot, become a SaaS founder myself. And that's where I've been going now for the last year and a half. So I've also done a little bit of management consulting for Winning by Design and a couple other.
Oh, nice. Love them.
Yeah. And done that. And then, really just enjoy kind of go-to-market strategy, things like that. So probably a little bit different going from less from a product standpoint, but more from a sales perspective to the product side. So I've had to learn how to write, build software and, that type of stuff too. So it's been a little bit of a journey here.
Awesome. And Amar, what about yourself? Joining as co-host here from Humantic.
Yes, so founder of Humantic AI, second SaaS startup, did another one earlier before this, calling in from Bay Area, Palo Alto right now, although I usually call in from Bangalore, so just been visiting here. Awesome. So my first job was a very boring software engineer, as you might imagine. So that was a while ago, though. It was almost 20 years ago, so been around for some time. And what else? That's a little bit of an introduction. I think we'll talk, of course, more about a little bit about Humantic, but more about buyer centricity. That's a topic I feel about quite strongly. I think I have strong views too, so we'll get to that in a minute.
Awesome. And to round things out, Kevin, what about yourself?
Yeah, thanks. I'm Kevin Gaither. Most people just call me KG. I'm calling in from Los Angeles, but I was originally born in the San Francisco Bay Area. My first paycheck, delivering newspapers, going door to door, collecting cash as like a 12-year-old. Can you imagine sending your 12-year-old around these days with cash, collecting cash? Anyway,
what is that?
I know, right? I didn't have my Square app attached to my Schwinn. So I've been in sales and sales leadership since 19 94, and I've been at 8 startups, 3 with successful exits. And I help leaders at early stage tech startups avoid mistakes while they're building their inside sales teams and growing revenues.
Awesome. Well, excited to get a bunch of different opinions from some experienced folks on this call. So maybe before we dive into the first question, what we're going to be talking about today, again, the key to B2B sales success today, a buyer-centric process. We're going to talk about things from how buyer expectations and processes have changed dramatically. We'll talk about some specific tactical actionable things for sales leaders to do to hit ambitious revenue goals, and really how to build a buyer-centric sales team and process and culture, since I think it starts at that top with really the culture that you take towards working with your customers. So maybe just to kind of, level set on what we're talking about, would be curious to get everyone's take on how the B2B buyer expectations have changed and how this has kind of impact the need for a more buyer-centric approach. Why don't we go in reverse order here? Kevin, you can kick things off. Sorry, KG.
Yeah. What I'm observing is that these B2B buyers and my clients are telling me they expect this like Amazon like buying experience. They want to try the product, beforehand. Show me, don't tell me. Let me experience it, for myself. And I know that a lot of sellers have difficulty with that because they want to hold all the cards and make the sale. And I think that the advent of product-led growth has been good for our business, so that we can let the buyers try the product and not trust salespeople, because most can't be trusted.
Very fair.
Except for those on this call. Sorry, never mind. Everybody on this call can be trusted. Listen to us, but everybody else no.
And you guys, what's your take?
Let me
go for it.
Yeah, I think in general, consumerization is a broad concept. Even if you look beyond B2B buying, there's consumerization at play. So people expect similar levels of experience. Typically, I think it's a little weird, but on the consumer front, when we purchase as consumers, we just want so much experience, customer service, the red carpet. But on the B2B side, in the past, it's been, hey, this is maybe okay. I think that's changing, and hence building the experience for the customer, for the buyer, becomes critically important today. Although my take is most of the people end up paying lip service to what we'll talk about, buyer centricity.
Totally.
I don't think a lot of companies really do what is required. But so the customer today, they want to experience what exactly they're going to get. They have very high expectations. Their patience with your product is low. Typically, the terms, etc., that are tied to even B2B products are changing. So it was much harder. Even the older products, when we use them, it's just so hard to find that cancellation button. But as we build the products today, that's changing. So I think broadly, I would call it consumerization, even of B2B, is what we are seeing on many fronts.
Yeah, that's a really good take. I think both you guys hit on already is how some of this B2C world is influenced and kind of come through the B2B world. And I think the expectations that previously existed around needing to buy the thing potentially for multiple years before even getting to value, and like great example of impossible to cancel, get refunds. Now it's like the status quo is a free trial versus an annual or multi-year agreement. Jesse, curious to get your take.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, one of the things that I was dealing with was I was a rep as an enterprise software rep, and I realized that I didn't really even like the buying experience that I was even creating, right? Which was a hard, a tough pill to swallow. I was like, am I going to continue to go this route where, I was selling to the Fortune 50, Fortune 500, and am I going to continue to go and kind of make it harder and harder to buy because I know I'm one of 2 or 3 products on the market that they have to look at and put up blocks. And, I think that's really when it clicked for me was, man, I would never want to buy like this, right? So I think that was really the aha moment for me, was that. And I think people want it to be easy, and I think a lot of the times too is companies, especially in the B2B space, like 50K and up, right? People want to buy faster. Actually, it's usually your own process that's killing it. Really, you have maybe a team that's inbounding the leads or the contact us forms. They have to get you to a sales rep. And there's just a lot of hurdles in the way. They make you jump over a lot of mountains before you can actually get what you need. And I just know now I'm completely resistant to it, right? Obviously, because I see it coming a mile away. But it's just, we need to just try to create this experience that's better for the buyer and let them buy faster, which is really the
yeah. I mean, yeah. Look, everyone, full of quotes, man. Like, everyone loves to buy. Nobody loves to be sold.
Yeah.
Right. Like, man, you're twisting people's arms and trying to convince them to do stuff. Why don't you just figure out who's like ready to buy, and those that aren't like ready to buy? And remember, that's a small percentage of people that are like ready to buy. Okay. And the others, let them go through their own nurturing process, either with the human or digitally or both. But like, trying to twist arms and snap necks these days, like that doesn't
people don't engage with that. No one's going to engage with that. Yeah. I think the way that I see, and I want to buy, this has been really interesting, and kind of, Jesse, to your point, like also being on the other side to it has been like mind opening to me, is now as a buyer of software, it is crazy to see some of the things that I used to do too. I'm like, oh man, that's awful. Like, I'm like, I can't believe I was doing that. Such a helpful lens. And what I think, how I want to be approached as a buyer of technology is, why did you reach out, or why did you take this call if I reached out? Number one. Number two, okay, say I'm interested. This is how people successfully evaluate and validate and eventually potentially onboard to our platform. This is who needs to be involved. This is what it's going to take from your side in terms of number of weeks and hours. That's what I want to know. That's everyone's first question, whether you're qualified or not. To Kevin's point, if you're not qualified, they still want to know eventually, right? Because they're taking the time to talk to you. And if they are, they want to be led through the process. And like, to Jesse's point, hey, if they're ready to do and you explain all this stuff, they can opt out of the validation. They can be like, cool, I understand that's what most people want. I'm here. They can identify where they are in the process and take it from there. And I think there's this weird cat and mouse game that's always played in sales. Instead of just saying, let me just put the cards on the table.
Yeah.
I am a sales rep. I help people do this. You are a customer. This is how it normally goes. Where should we take it from here?
Guess what? Just like in every relationship that you can possibly think of, expectation setting and communication is key, right? But we all pay this lip service, right? It's like, oh yeah, of course, expectation, communication. Sandler, there's a quote from Sandler: no mutual mystification. No mutual mystification. Why don't you just tell us what's going to happen next? What do I expect? What do you expect? And have that honest and authentic conversation. It's like, hey, so I think we should have another call and get your boss involved. How does that sound to you? Not work? Oh, okay. Why is that? Let's talk about this. Is that okay? Is that okay for me? Is that okay for you? Come on, just talk. Have a normal conversation.
We often, I think these days it's been on my mind. So we often talk about that with the team. So the best selling is when you never sell. That's the best selling, when you never sell. You never really sell. Hey, this is my product. This is why you should buy it. That's the last thing you should be doing. Let us say you've got an hour and you're spending really 58 minutes, 59 minutes out of that just problem solving, right? We can always go back to the salesperson as a doctor kind of an analogy for that matter. But that's, I think often enough, it has to be problem solving. We talk about qualification. We talk about, making sure that, the ICP is matching and whatnot. It makes sense to structure the process, but often enough, the structure sometimes becomes overbearing. And a lot of the reps, and I think it takes experience, and I'll say I myself, I'm not unlike, Ross, Jesse, Kevin, I think you're all sales professionals. I'm a professional engineer, or at best a product guy. I've built products. So it's only, so I call myself a student of sales right now. Last 4 or 5 years ago, my last startup, my investors would keep saying, Amarpreet, you know how to build only if you knew how to sell. Yeah. And I'm like, at some point I was like, all right, I mean, this is not the hardest thing. I'm going to get good at it. So I started learning, I became a student of selling. And this is part of what I've been learning over the years. See, it's not about just ticking off those boxes. Hey, these 5 qualification questions. This is really about internalizing that and saying, okay, how do I now use this to understand exactly what my buyer here needs? Do they really have a problem that we can solve? Jesse, your product, couple of times, I got on a call with a customer and they're like, hey, our response rate is 1%, something, so you guys do personalization. And I'm like, hold on, let's start with the basics. To me, the step one is really getting your email hygiene right. I said, have you, made sure that your emails are really landing in the inbox? And if not, I mean, go back, you should be talking to us. We're not step one of that. You should go and check out, so your product, I told them, I said, go look up what Jesse talks about, often enough.
That's great.
So, yeah, so I think that, that ability to kind of put of course we are there to sell, but can we put that, sort of in the background and really try to problem solve, put the customer again right in the middle, put their problem right in the middle and shoot for that. I think selling will happen. Selling will take care of itself if we can do that.
Well, but let me ask you though, how do you put their problem right in the middle? Like, this is where I think our audience totally messes this up, Amarpreet. How do you put their problem in the middle? How do you even find that out?
Easy. I'll give you an example. So we were on a call yesterday, and see, let us say I'm trying to understand. Like, one of the questions we ask, try to understand is this customer selling mostly to enterprises, mid-market, SMBs? Now, I could simply go and say, hey, tell me who you sell to. Who's your main customer? Or I could have just taken a look at their G2, and it literally gives you a breakdown of how many of their reviews are from SMB and mid-market and enterprise. Or I could go into that conversation and say, it seems that most of your selling is to mid-market. Can you tell me a bit more, right? So that's just a small example of how we start putting customer in the middle. Yeah. First of all, we prepare, right? We don't just walk in and say, can you tell me how many employees you have? Bloody LinkedIn tells you how many employees they have. Don't waste the customer's time. Yeah.
Well, totally agree, man. That's a great analogy. No one wants to be on the other side of that. Hey, the first 10 minutes of this 30-minute call that I just took time out, you could have spent 30 seconds online doing it.
Literally.
It feels at this point disrespectful when the bar is just, so much higher.
Yeah.
Here's one. Hey, Jesse, what keeps you up at night?
Oh my gosh.
How about you tell me that you don't know S from Shinola without telling me that you don't know S from Shinola?
I'll raise my hand. I've asked that question and you have gotten better than I have. Yes.
Yeah, I think for us, what we do a lot of is we really, like, when we figured out like what we're going to do, we started to look at like which metrics that we look at, so we obviously use Humantic when people come inbound. We want to understand how to communicate with them. I think AI and personality is really one of the number one ways to kind of learn how to communicate with somebody. So the other thing we do is we'll look at like their, we have a MarTech product, right? And people will come and they'll say, okay, we're having some problems with, getting more leads in front of our sales team. And I'll immediately be checking, all right, which competitors are they using already that they don't know? Because every single SaaS company has like 5 of the same product, right? It's like, how are they using it? Should we be engaged? So we look for a lot of those signals, and then, just making sure we have that information available for people who are getting on the phones with our customers and understanding their problem before they see it. Because I think that's really what you need to do today. And it's pretty easy to get this information. I mean, there's no shortage of vendors who will sell it to you. That's for sure. So, if any group of people that are going really hard on it, it's that group. But anyways, that's kind of like what I think, is important for us.
Jesse, I had a client literally last week who said, KG, how do I accelerate my sales further, like in late stage? They tried our product and they want a proposal. And then they're saying, okay, we're going to put it into the budget process and that type of thing. How do we accelerate the sales? And I said, well, why don't we back up a little bit? Why don't we go back a little bit? What problem are you solving for them? And the client listed the features that the client likes. And I maybe I'm a jerk, but Jesse, I said to these guys, I said, I'm so disappointed in you. You don't understand why your customers, they don't buy it because of the features. They buy it because they're missing dinners because they have to do something that takes longer. You know, they have to do work on the weekends, which takes them away from going to, you know, their kid's soccer game or something. Why aren't you, if you want to accelerate deals, sell deals more faster, be more buyer-centric, why don't you figure out why they buy? And I said, here's your pro tip. Call them up. Call up the current clients that you currently have and ask them why they bought and dig deep. Dig deep. But most people don't have the guts to do it.
Yeah, they're just it's like it was a luck. But most of your buyers will buy for the same reasons over and over, really. It's that compelling event before, of course, that we see always. There's always something going on. And I think the faster you can map that back, it's easier to kind of figure out who your new buyers are going to be too, right? Like that's constant, right? When I see a certain company install a certain technology on their website, we're constantly scanning it. I can tell like which ones are the best buyers for us right now, you know, so it's really easy to figure it out after that. So, but those are some of the things we do.
So Casey, I want to go back to what you said earlier. So you said the why, right? So you seem to be saying the why is important. How important is the why is what I want to ask you. Is the why sufficient if you just figure out the why well, or is there more to it? Is there, you know, if we truly want to become buyer-centric, you know, as we're saying, and
like, look, this is such a problem, and I can stand up on this pedestal forever, and it's just a consistent problem. Here is like, tell me what the pain is, tell me what the problem, and then the customer says something. Most salespeople go, great, can I show you my demo?
Yeah, and then they just try to tie back to that.
Yeah. Correct. So I want to then say, well, give me an example of that. And I want to get down to like what the real business is.
Because they're ticking off the boxes. That's the thing. They're just ticking off the boxes. Hey, I was supposed to ask why.
That's right.
So my question is, so let us say we actually genuinely figure out why, but let us say we've got it, but is it important to build a process, right? And Ross, maybe you can take a shot too, right? You're building out a sales team, scaling it up. Is it important to build a process? Is it more than process? Is it important to build a culture? So that's what I'm going with, you know, so at what point do we have genuinely, truly have enough buyer centricity rooted deep in our GTM motion, let's just say, you know, is it about why? Is it about process? Is it about culture? What does it take?
I think a lot of this starts with the people, because I don't think this is something that you can necessarily, you can teach the tactics, but I don't think you can teach the interest in other people. That's kind of where.
So culture. So you're saying culture sort of,
and
right?
The process. All you can do is control. Like all you can do is like kind of set the barriers for people to do their work. That's one of my biggest learnings from building out a sales organization is like, it is the net of the people, and there's so little you can do to influence that. You got to give them the guardrails and give them the, you know, hey, these are the value props and this is some support, but it's them on the phones all day and them writing the emails. And there's only so much coaching, little things that you can do. 95% of it is going to be the people. And again, like you can give them the process, but then the angle that they're going to take to that, like, right, you're going to give them these questions and frameworks, the way that it's going to come across in their EQ, people are going to pick up whether or not they care about the customer and the problem that you're solving. You can be saying the same thing. Two different people can say the exact same words, follow the same process. That's why I think it really starts with the people. And there's very little.
Would it work without the process? So, I mean, let's say people really feel it, but would it work without the process, or you necessarily need a process too?
No, you need a process, but that process is rooted in understanding what, like, for example, at one of my previous companies, my salespeople weren't allowed to put a proposal in front of a customer unless they understood what the metric for success was.
Yeah. Okay.
You had to, and you through your discovery, you had to, and that was a process. And we literally had it in the opportunity in Salesforce. And there was a, you know, don't be on this report if you were attempting to put a proposal out with nothing in that stage, which we didn't make it mandatory so we could catch salespeople. So yeah, of course there's a process. Everyone talks about, you know, it depends and it should be hyper personalization and every email should be different. come on, man. Like, go make a Toyota and have it be random every single time you made a Toyota. Like, there has to be a process, but there's these central tenets that you build into this process that like check the boxes.
Well, that's what enables. The process enables that to do it every time, right? Like similar thing with like that email follow-up, that executive touch point, whatever. It's like, don't send me the generic, hey, it looks like it's a great fit. Let me know if you want to chat before. Like, what? Like, they can tell from a mile away that you don't care, that you don't even know the thing. Hey, it sounds like you're working on accelerating your time to value because you don't have this thing and this thing. Exciting to work with you guys because we've helped companies, blah, 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 do the similar thing last year when they were doing this. Any question of that is just, they're totally different worlds. And like you're saying, Kevin, that's part of the process, but you can't get to the right thing, I think, without the people that are going to actually care about that. They're going to attach, okay, part of the process. Okay, they're going to say the first thing. You're not going to get to the bottom of it, like you were saying, that third or fourth why. If you're not saying that why, they don't care. And that's the big challenge. And that's why I think having the product background, you get to a lot of those whys, because that's like what great product people do, right? Is they deeply understand not just building the feature, but they understand the job to be done. And that's really what we're talking about at the end of the day, using all this, complicated sales work. You're figuring out what the job is to be done by the thing that your software does. And that's why the feature doesn't matter.
I think it's important to say that people buy right away on emotion first, and then they back it up like with all the rationality and
that's just explanation.
GE, somebody at GE doesn't need isn't going to be like, I want to go save my company $5 million or $10 million. That's not their motive. I think you guys brought up some good points about that, obviously around like why they're on the call there. But I think it's just important to understand it's about them really at the beginning. It's not even really about their company. And it's like, yeah, but why do you even care about fixing that? I mean, people right now, even with quiet quitting and all the other interesting things that are going on in the world today with remote work, digital and first workplace and everything, I think it's really interesting just to think about what's it about? Why are they even on a call with you? Right? It's like, it's more than why they might even be a fit for your product. It's like, why are they even talking to you at that
personally?
Personally. Yeah, but why do you want to fix that? Like, who's telling you to fix it? That type of stuff is like kind of missed a lot of the time. Now we go right into kind of feature function demo mode right away. And that's where it gets really dangerous.
Most salespeople can't get past that. It's the surface level, the business pain, and then there's that personal pain. Jesse, you're so right. Like, why don't salespeople have the guts to just ask that question? Oh, it's because it's intrusive. It's too personal. I tell you what, I've been a VP for over 10 years on the buying side. I love it when sales reps are going to ask me questions, and I love it when they're going to show me a custom demo based on the things that were important to me and not just the stock show up and throw up stuff. Like, but I don't know.
So Katie, there's a small catch though. I'll tell you that. So we sell to sales teams, and it's just easy selling to sales teams. Let me say that, because they understand how selling is supposed to work. So for example, asking, or when I am on the buying side, right, as a salesperson now, and the vendor or they start pitching their product and they're like, hey, can you help me understand this? I'm like, yeah, go ahead, do your discovery, do your qualification. I know it's important, and you're just trying to help me. But to tell me if you face it, I've seen it. When you meet buyers who are not salespeople, they come in and they're like, show me your demo. And you're like, well, hold on, my demo is only as good as, your problem. So they actually sometimes don't want to. So what you said, so why not ask that question? Salespeople, they understand it, they answer that question. But if you're not a salesperson, does it work equally well? I have some doubts about that.
I mean, I feel like Ross could take this answer because this is about expectations and communication. So, I don't know. To me, that would be a signal. Just show me your stuff. Just show me your stuff. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want you to understand anything about me. That is a signal to me that maybe I don't have a buyer in front of me.
Or you have someone who's just, I don't know, sometimes I can go 50-50 for me on that, or maybe 80-20. Sometimes there are buyers there, and that's just their approach. They don't trust salespeople. They might be so qualified that they just want to see the thing because they've done all the research and they couldn't potentially from your website. I've seen this before. the only answer to that type of bull personality is yes. Let me bring up the screen share, and I'm asking them questions while I'm doing all this stuff. That's what I do. Yeah, for sure. Let's dive right in.
Would you forecast that deal though? Because I would say to you that bluebirds have flown through my windows every once in a while, but that is not, and you said it yourself, the typical buyer, and Jesse did too, your typical buyer buys in a very similar pattern. When it falls outside of that, we have to wonder, gosh, is that a forecastable deal or not?
You need to work backwards. I'm just saying those deals you need to they could be good deals.
They could be.
They're skipping, and you're going to skip a lot of steps, but say, I'm going to take them from where they are today, and I'm going to help them understand why. It's about not just saying we need to do this, and that's what's frustrating. I can't give you pricing yet. I need to ask you 7 questions first. I'll do the thing you're asking me. It's called a give get. I'm gonna do the thing.
So let's make it hard for all of us. So we're talking about being buyer centric, right? Putting the buyer dead right in the center. Shouldn't them be making an effort to understand different kind of buyers? Maybe this is a different kind of a buyer that's coming in with a different approach. Would that be more buyer centric? Understanding this customer, customizing a process for this customer who just says, show me the demo, or would trying to fit them into a process. So let's make it slightly fun, folks.
That's what I'm saying. Is like, I do this all the time. I'm happy to answer your question. I'm not here. If you don't want me to be a consultant, I won't be a consultant. Fine.
Okay.
Made the time. It's on the calendar. I'm going to show you the thing. That's what you're asking. But I'm going to educate you. I'm going to say most people that effectively solve these 2 or 3 problems, we help solve these 2 or 3 problems. If you don't have that, you just want to see the thing, fine. And I'm trying to do that well. I'm giving them what they asked for. I think that's the right approach. Is you like Kevin said, there's going to be 98% of deals look and act the same. How do you put them on that railroad track? And they're all not going to start there, right? You're giving up like 20, 30, 40% of your revenue. If you have to say every conversation needs to start with this persona, and this question and this thing, you might start with a totally wrong stakeholder. You might start with them totally misunderstanding what you do and all this stuff. How do you put them on that track? And that's why it's so hard. You have to have such high EQ to be an incredible seller, is because you need to reframe how people are even thinking about it themselves and kind of incept that to them. Because they're going to say F you. Yeah.
Let me reframe what you said, and maybe I know for the benefit of, I'm guessing there's a bunch of sales reps, AEs, BDRs, on this call. So what we're saying is we should customize for them. If they want it differently, let's give them differently, right? If you want it, with the sriracha sauce, then take it with the sriracha sauce. If you want it with the sweet, barbecue, then it's your thing. But maybe in that case, we just help them realize what they're missing out on, right? So rather than trying to bring them into our fold, our process, our way of doing things, we say, hey, look, we'll do it your way. But when we do it your way, this is what you miss out, and let them sort of opt in a way into our way of doing things. So let me frame it like that. So maybe it makes it more useful, for the people on this call.
Great reframing. They need to say yes to it. You can't tell them you're going to do this. I'm not going to show you the thing now. Yes, yes, yes. And this is what I'd recommend, because I need to come across as an expert, and you need to earn that right. I know we're
I'm showing a demo, and I can say, hey, if I knew exactly what is your main goal this quarter, I could show you those features. But given that I don't know those things, I'm just gonna show you all the fancy stuff, right? So let them say, well, hold on, let me tell you more about my problem. Yeah,
so exactly. Well, I know we're wrapping up on time. Maybe we can round it out maybe with 1 or 2 kind of key takeaways from what we heard from everyone, and we can let everyone kind of take this into their own conversations with buyers. So Jesse, you want to kick us off with kind of 1 or 2 things?
Yeah, sure. I think it was a really good discussion, especially around just really getting out that around buyers are actually ready to buy, and we're slowing them down. I think it was what I took away from a lot of the discussions that we've had. Not having the information; those are some good points. Not asking them how many people in their company, this stuff like that. That's just so. I mean, you don't have to go hire a private investigator to figure out what. So those are some of the things. I think just getting that information, doing that. Now, some orgs are better than others, right? Some orgs might have I mean, ideally you might have the Humantic data right up in front of you while you're talking to the person, right? So, but you have stuff like that going on, and I think it's just really important. I think the other thing that maybe even next time would be interesting to talk about would be around how we incentivize sellers, and kind of, that was one thing that I didn't want to go off on a tangent, but I think there's a little bit of a disconnect with, the buyer has an outcome, but they're not the event of selling the product the first time is really insignificant to both the company and the actual buyer, but the salesperson's in the
Both
middle.
parties, yeah, except for the buyer. Yeah, exactly. That's
Right. So it's a really challenging problem that's been created, and you're starting to see a shift towards this customer success and all of this. But anyways, I think it was a really good discussion. Love to join again, and really enjoyed talking with everybody here.
Awesome.
Kevin, we'll let you, KG. we'll let you go next. I think Guy and Ross will act as the good hosts here.
In theory, you're working at a company that has some customers. Maybe you've got product market fit. Maybe you're not sure yet. Take the opportunity to talk to those current customers and understand why they bought, beyond just the features, and what their pains that you're solving, and that'll help you become more buyer-centric moving forward, because you can understand what those pains are when you're speaking to the next potential customers. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, thanks for joining. Yeah, I guess
Again,
go for it, and then I can round things up.
We'll let you wrap it up. So you start, you wrap. Makes it even. Yeah. So I think my biggest takeaway is it's really about the buyer. We should really make ourselves about the buyer. If we have to change how we do things, we should. But I think the main thing that came out was that it takes quite a bit to truly become buyer-centric. It starts with people internalizing, that. So it's, we said people's the number one thing, but without process, we probably wouldn't have guardrails, around how people work. So it's a little bit like, then becomes too fluid. It's like water in the air. It can go anywhere. So guardrails is sort of like putting it in a bottle. So we need process, to act as guardrails. But fundamentally, what KG said at the beginning goes to, starting with the why. So I would say a combination of understanding the why, tying it to the process, but really making sure that our people internalize that customer first, their way first. That's how we got to do it.
Yeah, my biggest takeaway is that success criteria for the customer, and having that, like, that's what you need on that first call. That's what you bring up on the second one, and every single stakeholder, internally, externally, you're going back to that. And I think we can kind of feel like we're, if you don't feel like you're saying it too many times, you're not saying it enough. And I think because it gets so obvious to us because we live this problem, it's probably not on the top of the mind of our customers. And even though it might be a painful thing, maybe I'm struggling with engineering recruiting. If every time I get on the call with the person that's trying to solve that problem for me, and they say, and we're going to help you recruit engineer, I'm talking to the right person, I'm spending my time in the right place, and I'm going to be spending my money in the right place. So always going back to that. It's awesome. Well, I know we're a bit over. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time. I got a lot to take back to my team now after this conversation. And have a great rest of the week, and a quarter probably, and a month. So happy selling, everyone.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining. Bye-bye.
Peace.